Humans of New York, tell the people. Okay. Tell them what it is. Tell them what it is and why you started it.
Okay. Well, Humans of New York is a photography project that I started about 3.5 years ago. Mm-hmm. And since then, I originally had the goal of just walking around the streets of New York and stopping about 10,000 people on the streets and taking their photos. And I was going to plot these photos on a map of the city. 10,000. That was my goal. And so, over the course of this time, it has evolved into a blog format where, I was providing just about 4 or 5 photos every day. And then I eventually kind of started interviewing the people that I was photographing. So not only did I stop and I take their portrait, but I also found out a little bit about their lives. And so now I post about 5 or 6 of these a day, photos and stories. Every day. And we are up to about 4 million followers on social media. You always laugh at that point.
It's just awesome.
It's pretty crazy.
From a photographer who, as I understood the story that you've told me before, moved to New York City,
right,
with 2 suitcases, and into a room in an apartment that you had a mattress on the floor, and that was it.
And not much photography experience either. I had been photographing for about 6 months when I decided to do that.
And you were a bond trader.
Yes.
You quit your job or you were fired. I don't remember which one of the two. Doesn't matter. But you were living a life in Chicago? Is that right?
I was in Chicago.
And with a sort of a dream of being a photographer?
Well, yeah, I just love photography. I don't even know if I really saw a path to being a professional photographer. But, over the course of just, photographing, I started taking these pictures of people, which I thought were kind of unique, especially ones where I stopped people on the streets and kind of took an intimate portrait of a stranger. And so I thought I was doing something kind of new, and I had this idea. And so I thought the idea was really good. And, even though I wasn't that good at photography now, and I still joke with you, I don't think I'm that good now.
Oh, you've got talent,
but, even then, I thought the idea was so good, I would just go after it and then grow into the idea. And that's what's happened, is that, if you go back and look at the photos I was taking back when I started Humans of New York full time, the lights messed up, it's just the composition's horrible, it's just they're bad. But I just kept at it every single day, and then eventually, kind of my skills grew into the idea I had.
That is a great message for the folks at home, that what you did, I think, better than most is you started.
Yeah, that's what I always say, is, don't wait for perfect. I just feel like there's so many people out there that are waiting to have like an idea completely fully formed in their head. And so, they're market researching with their cousin, and their friend knows a lot about business, so they're getting all his input, and basically what they're doing is they're just kind of basically finding, what normally happens is the more research and the more you think about it, the more reasons you find not to do something.
You create a bunch of hurdles for yourself.
Yeah, exactly. Right? And so, the key is that just you start moving down that path, start creating, start working on something, even if it's not perfect in your head.
Even if you are a bond trader, even if you are a nurse, even if you are a plumber, even if you are a carpenter, whatever you're doing, do something. If you have a vision of you doing something else, find a way to start doing that.
Start doing it. There's a quote that came up on one of my Twitter feed from Dan Pelota, who gave a great TED Talk. But he says you can't gather data in a vacuum. There's no way you're going to be able to get the knowledge to build something unless you're actually doing it and kind of getting feedback from your work. So, yeah, it's just important to, start moving down the path, and then eventually, the idea will flesh itself out through the work.
That's amazing advice. I'm going to take a fast forward here, and I'm going to say, okay, you were in Chicago, you moved to New York, you lived in the room with the mattress on the floor, you started taking pictures.
Yeah.
Fast forward, not very long, my friend, not very long at all.
Okay.
And you have a book,
yes,
and that book goes straight to the #1 slot on the New York Times list.
Right. That was awesome.
Mind blower.
Yeah, that was great.
What is it like? What does it feel like? And
Yeah, well, obviously that, because a long time, growth is never linear with a creative thing. You work and you work and you work and you work and you work, and then you reach a tipping point. And you know what I said? This is something I've been kind of fleshing out for myself. I think I might have talked about it on your show, is that the longest amount of time is before you have one true fan.
Yep.
I don't mean your friend. I don't mean your cousin who's telling you. I don't mean somebody who's just retweeting your stuff so you'll retweet them.
Yep.
I mean the time between when you start an artistic process or an artistic pursuit and you get that one person who really engages with your work and connects with it and looks for it, that is where the lion's share of the effort is. And that's why it's so hard, because you're not getting any validation during that time.
No feedback, no validation, no motivation from a fan that's getting you going, getting up in the morning.
And once you find that one fan, I say the world is such a big place that's when you've made it. Because if you found that one person who's just that cares that much about your work, because the world is such a big place, you know that there's thousands and millions of people out there just like them. And after that, it's just a matter of time and hard work.
So speaking of thousands and millions of fans, in 2010 you started the project?
November 4th, 2010.
November 4th, 2010.
Right.
And what's the current Facebook following?
The Facebook following is I know it way too well. I think it's like 3,628,000. I know that way too well. So yeah, I think, total with Instagram, Tumblr, we're probably getting close to 5 million.